All right, guys. So today we're going to learn the basics of MLA and APA paper formats so that you can identify the key differences and similarities of both of those formats and then use that knowledge about MLA and APA formats, okay? Have you guys ever heard of that before? Okay, so I'm going to present it to you today, and then today you do have an assignment, but it's not due until Friday. That's going to go over what we talk about, okay? And if you pay close attention, it should be easy. All right. So MLA, APA, what does that even mean? This is going to be kind of serve as a guide for you guys to help you through MLA and APA, because you are going to hear about it a lot, especially going forward now that you guys are moving on to junior and senior English and then maybe on to college, okay? So these are going to be the formats you're going to use. So what we're going to do is we are starting a new unit, which is for research, but before we can do that, you do have to have a good understanding of how research papers are set up. And so I do want to walk you through it because there are differences between them and they're very important. So, all right. So, okay, so what does MLA and APA even mean? So according to Purdue Owl, which I want you to get very acquainted with because that is going to be your buddy, your pal when you're writing papers. It's a handy and trusted website for all paper related things for both MLA and APA, which are styles of documentation that can be applied to many different types of writing. So basically MLA and APA are two different ways to set up and format your papers, okay? So that's why they're important, because there is specific ways that you have to set up your papers. So MLA stands for the Modern Language Association and APA stands for the American Psychological Association. And so the styles are named after the organizations that pretty much created them. Because think about it, so psychological, you're gonna have to write papers, right? About disorders, medical documentations, right? So there has to be a set way that you set it up. So this is kind of how it works. So trying to figure out MLA, APA, that would be a good question. So MLA, you're going to use for what we call the humanities. Okay, humanities are English, history, religious studies, philosophy, and ethics, foreign language, art, and art history. Now, it also depends on what your teacher says, right? I have been in some philosophy classes that want what's called Chicago style, which is a very rare style of paper formatting, because these are the two most popular that you'll use, but there are other ones. So we're just going to focus on these. So in this class, you will always use MLA, okay? Okay, so APA, you have your biology, chemistry, physics, sociology, psychology, and math. This is also for legal fields. So how many of you have Miss Peña-Bui? Okay, if you have Miss Peña-Bui, you're going to be writing your papers in APA format, okay? Because that is a very different style. So think about science-based, right? That's going to be your APAs. When it comes to MLA, it's more your thought. Your English is your philosophies, okay? Yeah, that's. I love Miss Peña-Bui. Okay, so let's start with MLA. Okay, the cool thing about MLA, no title page is needed. Okay, so this is the way I'm going to set it up. I'm going to tell you the basics, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then we're going to watch a video on how to set it up. Okay, so MLA formatting, the basic requirements. It must have 1-inch margins all the way around. Good thing for you is in most Word documents, that's already the default, okay? You're gonna have 12-point New Times Roman font unless otherwise stated. There will be some professors that you'll come across in the future. If you go to college, that will be like, no, I want Georgia, or no, I want Calibri, okay? Or Arial. You basically will go off of what your professor wants, but if they don't ever state it, it's understood that Times New Roman is the one that you're going to use. Yes.
I have some teachers that we can bring up the point font I want.
Yes.
Some people want 13 or more.
Some people want 13. I've had professors that want 11. So, you know, you have to, you're going to go based on what your professor wants, but if they don't actually state it, it's understood that these are the basic requirements. Okay. You always double space, but you have to have 0 before and after. Don't be trying to be slick when people are like, it has to be a 3-page paper and then you add points after your spacing. It's very obvious and your professors will realize it. Okay, and I will notice it because I've become like a professional formatting person, so I can tell. It needs a header with the last name and page number, which is right aligned, and you're gonna see what that looks like. A heading with your name, teacher name, class title, and date. And I've been telling you to do that on all your papers anyways, okay? Title is centered in regular font. Don't be bolding it, don't underline it, just leave it alone, regular font. An indent on the first line of each new paragraph, which is basically you just hit tab, and then 1 space after all periods and other punctuation marks. Now, this may sound kind of goofy, right? The fact that it's like only 1 space after punctuation. But when I was your age, we used to have to put 2 spaces after every period. And so now they're having to teach people to go back to just 1 space. So that's why that's there, okay? So again, this is all just requirements, but this is what it's gonna look like, okay? So this is a header. This is the one that normally you have to double click at the very top of the page, and then it'll like gray out when you're in the regular paper, okay? Do not type 1 here. You're going to insert a page number because if you type 1 here, every single page will be 1. Okay, it basically whatever's in here copies over to the other pages unless you indicate otherwise. So this is a header. This is a heading. That's where you put your first and last name, your teacher's name, your class, and then the date. Then you do 1 space, like 1 hit enter, and then you put your title. And then this is the way it'll be set up. Okay, later this week, I am going to introduce you to the 5-paragraph essay. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you write a 5-paragraph essay, but you're going to see how that it all fits together. Okay, so we're going to watch a video real quick of me setting this up. Okay, I'm not expecting you to remember all of it. Just pay close attention so you have some idea, and it's always going to be there for you to review. Okay, sound like a plan? Yes? No? Maybe so? All right. You wanted to first see it. I wanted to go ahead and create a video that shows you how to set up the MLA formatted Word document on both in Word on the desktop and then using OneDrive and Google Docs. So let's get started with the desktop version. So you click on Microsoft Word. You just double click it. It does take the time, a little bit of time sometimes. Then you click blank document. All right, once it's open, we can go ahead and make it as big or as small as you need it to. So here we go. So Microsoft Word automatically defaults to 1-inch margins, but to be able to check that, you can go ahead and go to Layout and click on Margins, and it'll say Normal, which is 1-inch top, 1-inch bottom, 1-inch left, and 1-inch right. Okay. Also remember for MLA documents, you need to have a header, which is your last name and a page number. So what you'll do is you'll basically just double click up here, and it'll say header. So there's these different options here, and you can say edit header as well. But it's just easier for me to go to home. I'm going to do right align. I'm going to change the font to Times New Roman. It's already in 12. And I'm going to type in my last name and put a space. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to insert. And where it says header and footer, I'm going to put in my page number. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK because it automatically defaults to having it right aligned. And now I can click outside my head. Now, if the double clicking on the top does not work for you, you can also go to insert, do header, then click header, and then you would just hit edit, and it'll open it that way as well. So now we're going to go ahead and click outside the header, and notice that it automatically defaulted to calibri. We're going to go ahead and change that to Times New Roman. It is 12 font. it is left aligned as it should be. But we're gonna go here where it says line and paragraph spacing, and we're gonna go ahead and click 2. So that's gonna double space it. Another way you can also do that is go to format, paragraph, and this window will open. And then it has line spacing over here. We'll click double and make sure that this says 0, 0. You do not want these to be anything else because then you won't have the bridge spacing. And you can just hit OK. So our heading, the first line is going to be your name, then your teacher's name, your class, and then I always ask my students to put the period that they're in. So let's go ahead and put the period, okay? And then we're gonna put the date. And remember, the date is formatted the day, then the month, then the year. And then you hit enter. Once you hit enter, you're gonna wanna go up here and center a line because this is where your title will go. Remember, if an MLA is not bolded or underlined, it is just plain text. Once you have your title, you'll hit enter, and then you're gonna left align again and hit tab. Okay, our Word automatically defaults to a 0.5 tab, so you should be good. And then you'll start typing. Okay. And then you can go ahead and type your paragraph, and then always remember new paragraphs are indented, so you'll hit tab again. And on another video, I will show you how to set up your works-cited and also include in-text citations. So this is how you will do it in Word. And then you want to make sure that you're saving your document. So you can either go here to file save, or you can click the little save icon here. And then you'll title your document. Okay, and so there's more video because I actually show you how to do it in OneDrive and also on Google Docs. Okay, but I'm not going to show you all of that. But do you see that there is a lot of steps you do actually have to take? But once you get used to it, it becomes second nature, right? That actually took me a lot of time to kind of walk you through it. But normally I'm so used to doing MLA that I can do it within a couple of seconds and I move on my way. Okay. Now you want to be sure that you're following the formatting requirements if they say MLA, because there are a lot of teachers that won't even accept your work if it's not like that. Okay. It's very important that you make sure you're following the format that your teachers are telling you to follow. Okay. So how do I get out of this? All right. So that's MLA. So what classes are you going to use MLA for?
English
English?
or human
Resources? Humanities.
Humanities.
Humanities. So when they talk about humanities, those are your liberal arts. Those, the ones that are considered the thinking, like a lot of the thinking, not necessarily scientific based, more analysis based kind of thing. Yeah. So humanities, right? So the ones that really are the analyzing, thinking type of thing. Then you have the APA, again, which is for the American Psychological Association. Now, I forgot to tell you that there is one subject that kind of goes a little wishy-washy with both of them, and that's history. Sometimes there's going to be history classes that want APA. Sometimes there's classes that want MLA. Sometimes they want Chicago, okay? I hate Chicago. That's why I'm not going to teach it to you, and it's very rarely ever used, okay? Only your old school professors are going to be using that, all right? So APA, the first thing that makes APA different is you have to have a title page, but it does not count for your page count ever, okay? So if your teacher says, I want a 5-page APA paper, in reality, it's going to be at least 6 pages or 7 pages because you're going to have your title page and you're going to have a works cited and they never count, okay? So for this one, again, you have to have 1-inch margins, same thing. But here you can do 12-point New Times Roman or Georgia font, okay? There are other options, but they're less common, okay? So if you go to Purdue Owl, they'll tell you what you can do. Again, double space before and after. The title page is a little tricky because there are actual numbers of spaces you're supposed to put between each one, but it's going to be centered. And the title this time is in bold, followed by your name, your school affiliation. What does that mean?
What school you go to?
What school you go to? Okay, the course name, and sometimes I'll ask you for the course number as well, the teacher's name and the date. You're gonna put just the page number in the header, no last name. Okay, the second page, it will start with the title, title centered in bold, and then your paragraphs are also indented. The other thing that is very common to APA papers is what's called an abstract. Have you guys ever heard of that? Okay, so normally you're gonna be doing it if you have big projects or scientific papers. An abstract is basically a summary of your entire paper. Okay, so you'll have the title page and then it's followed by an abstract. But in high school, we're not gonna be asking you to do abstracts, okay? But just know that when you go to start researching, abstracts are a great way to find out what the article's about, because you can just read that and it tells you everything the article is about, okay? And if it's something that fits your research, then you can read the whole actual paper, right? So that's what's kind of cool about APA papers, right? Because MLA does not have that. You have to actually read the whole thing to figure out what it's about. So again, this is what the title page looks like, okay? So you have your title in bold this time and only the page number, okay? Then you have your name, your school affiliation, your class, your teacher, and the date, okay? This is still considered a heading, right? And this is a header. Okay, so make sure you know the difference. A header is at the very top of the page, the heading is your information. So that's what the title page looks like. But the second page looks like this, okay? So you have your header, you have your title in bold, and then you start indenting it. But here's something else that makes APA papers different. Remember, they're more scientific, math-based papers. They have subcategories, okay? They have different levels. So here is a secondary level, right? APA basic requirements, and then this would be considered a third level, the APA title page. So to where MLA is normally just one big, like several paragraphs of paper, right? APA breaks it down. The reason they do this is because in a lot of scientific papers, they're gonna have the process, the results, the conclusion. So how does that make it easy? Well, if I'm just looking for the results of it, I just go look at the results, right? I don't want to know the process. I just want to know the results. I can go look at it, right? So in a lot of ways, APA is actually easier than MLA, especially when it comes to researching. And I actually think, and I know people are going to be mad that I say this, I actually think APA is easier when it comes to citing, okay? Which I'm going to tell you or teach you over the next 2 days, okay? So unfortunately, I'm an English teacher and this is my English class, so you have to use MLA, okay? But those of you that are in those criminal justice classes and those, that's APA, okay? So again, I'm gonna walk you through. So I'm gonna walk you through just the actual Word document one, so we don't have to spend so much time with it. But again, I have uploaded these videos to my YouTube. I'm also including them in your course, and it goes over all three because I've tried to find the 3 most common things you guys use, okay? So that you can make sure to set it up properly.
Okay.
Oh, you finished already? Oh, that's nice. Huh,
Keeps instant permission.
yeah. Oh, well. So then you guys think, let me see. Let me go to my YouTube. I can play it.
Enjoy the sun.
Hey everyone, it's Ms. Garcia. I wanted to show you how to set up APA paper in both the desktop mode and OneDrive mode and also Google Docs. So let's get started. So for the desktop Word, you're going to click on the Word icon and select a blank document. All right. So before we do anything, I always like to set up my headers. Now remember in APA, your header is just going to be the page number starting on the title page. So remember that APA has a title page and then you start typing your text on page 2. So let's set that up. So first things first, I want to access my header. There's two different ways I can do that. I can either double click up at the top and then it'll say header, or I can go to insert, header, header, and then edit header. Okay, so my page number does need to be right aligned. So I'm going to go ahead and click right alignment. I want to make sure that this is changed to Times New Roman 12. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert a page number. Now, please do not type 1. If you type 1, it's going to show 1 on every single page. You want to make sure to be adding the actual page number, the click page number. And the great thing about it is it's automatically defaulted to right alignment. So you just click insert and it will do that. Okay. Now to get out of the header, you can just click on any part of the document. Now we are at the very first line of the document. Now remember, this is the title page. So what you're going to want to do is first thing is you're going to change your spacing to 2.0. Now, again, you want to remember that that 2.0 needs to be 0 before and 0 after. And the way you can check that, there's two different ways. You can either click on the line spacing options, and it'll show it here, and it shows double. Or you can go to format, paragraph, and it'll also bring up that same window. Okay, so it looks like our spacing is perfect. We also need to make sure that we change our font to Times New Roman 12 or Georgia 12. I tend to like Times New Roman, it's just simpler and it is easier for me to put back and forth between the two different formats. All right, so unlike MLA, we don't just put our heading here, we are going to have an actual title page. So we also need to go ahead and center our cursor and then hit enter twice. Then we're going to go ahead and put our title, but in APA, you're going to bold your title. So title page, it can be as long as you need it to be. APA titles tend to be a little bit longer because they are based on your research. Then you're going to hit enter twice. And then you're going to turn off the bold. You're going to leave it centered. And then you're going to go ahead and put your name. Then it's your school affiliation. So we go to Ellison High School. We're going to go ahead and put Ellison High School. You're going to go ahead and put the course name, which is English 2. And I tend to ask my students to go ahead and put their period number. This is where you're going to put your teacher's name. So Ms. Garcia, and then hit enter again. Notice it's all double spaced and it's all plain text. It is not bolded or should not be bolded. And then you're going to go ahead and put your date. And that date is going to be the day, the month, and then the year. Once you finish your date, you need to hit enter and you're going to insert a page break. So the best way to do that is go to layout, page breaks, and page breaks. That automatically puts you on the second page. Notice that your header does show number 2, so you're on page number 2. Okay, real quick. So you do want to insert the page break, okay? I don't know how many times I've seen students just hit enter continuously until they get to a new page. That might work for a title page. However, if you continue to do that, let's say you go when you insert, you hit enter until you hit a new page and then you go back and you add more, well, then it's still going to cause a spacing problem. Okay, by hitting page break, it keeps everything where it's supposed to be. Okay, because remember, you're going to have a title page and at the end, you're going to have a works cited. So those two cannot move. Everything else in the middle can. Okay, so make sure that you know how to insert page breaks. It just makes your life a lot easier. Okay. It is still centered, which is good because we're going to go ahead and retype our title, making sure that it is Times New Roman 12. And we're going to bold it again. And so we'll just put our title here and hit enter. Once we hit enter, we want to take off the bold and click left alone. And then we're going to tab. And we're going to start typing. Okay. So in APA, for most students, you will not have different level headers. But if you do have different level headers, know that the first level is your actual title. Level 2 would be left aligned and bolded. So level 2. You would hit enter, unbold, tab, and start typing. And then if you have a level 3, which is a subsection, you would again hit enter. We're going to bold and italicize this one. And this is considered level 3. You would hit enter, turn both the italics and bold off, tab, and start to type. So that's the basics for the desktop Word document. Pretty simple. Okay, so the thing I do want to say is I'm forever saying I'm checking the font. So especially when you get into a lot of the online ones, sometimes if you click in the wrong spot, it'll default back to Calibri. So you always want to make sure that you're doing the same font, especially if you're doing copy paste, which I'll probably show you later how to do when you're doing research. Sometimes if you copy paste, it'll keep the font from where you got it from, and that can be a problem. So I'm going to show you how to do all of that. But I tend to use Times New Roman because both of them use it, and it's just easier for me to remember, right? So that way I know I'm always consistent. Are there any questions on either of those? Okay. So all right. So this is the difference, right? So the cool thing about MLA is if I say a 5-page paper, well, part of that is my heading, right?
Every page.
No, it's just that first page. So in reality, it's more like a 4.5-page paper. To where if I say I want a 5-page paper on APA, I really want 5 pages worth of text, okay? Not the title page. So there is a difference, and you can tell the difference, right? Especially when it comes to the heading, the header. So here's what's crazy is an APA, when you get to college, it will get more difficult with the header, but I'm not going to torture you that way, okay? They have something called a running head. That is a pain in the butt, okay? But this is basically the general format. And I need you to remember this. You're going to have to be able to identify it in the activity for this afternoon, okay? Any questions on these two?
No, ma'am.
All right. So now you know when somebody says write an essay in MLA format or use APA format for this assignment, you'll know what's going on, okay? You'll know exactly what you need to do. And I am going to introduce you to Purdue Owl, which is really, really just a great site. And I'm going to show it to you in a second, where it helps you with your citations, it's your formatting. I use it all the time, right? Because here's the deal. These tend to change. They change every couple of years, right? So you have to stay kind of current with what's required. So I still to this day go back to it. What's great is it is a website now. Before it used to be a thick old book that I used to have to purchase. One, there was an APA format guide and the other one was an MLA, and I'd have to carry them around with me and use that. All right, now you guys can just type it in and it's there. So it's nice. All right. So I know exactly. I used to spend so much money, it was ridiculous.
Wait, for what? College or for high school?
For college. Well, actually high school, they used to have them on the shelves and we'd have to pull them out and flip through them. Okay.
You still got a paper books, and sometimes you open it up in college and it's like a CD. It's
Yeah.
like, excuse me, I paid $40 for a disc.
So the easiest way to find Purdue Owl, and I use Purdue Owl also for another reason, because you can actually go to the MLA website or the APA website. I use Purdue Owl because it has both and actually has the other ones. So all I ever do is I just type in Purdue Owl. If I can type. Oops. Why is it not typing? 2 hours.
Be nice.
Number.
Ah, there we go.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna keep going back.
Purdue Owl, and then I hit enter. And it's gonna be always the first one that normally pops up, the writing center, the writing lab, and then basically
one college?
So you can go and like look at it. So that tells you the actual writing lab at Purdue. And then Purdue Owl will look like this, okay? And so it says general writing, research and citation, avoiding plagiarism, which we're gonna talk about, and then all these other resources. So if I were to click on research and citation, it shows you APA style, 7th edition, MLA style, Chicago style, IEE style, AMA style, ASA style, and then 6th edition, because some professors will actually tell you, I want you to use the 6th edition APA style, right? So it can get a little tricky. But when you click on them, so let's look at MLA style. It has an introduction, an overview, and then an MLA format and styling guide. That shows you the general format for the paper. Then it tells you how to do the in-text citations and works cited. So this is why it's a really good resource, because let's say I have this odd source that I don't know how to cite. I just go here and I find the one that's close, like the closest match to it. Okay, I'm going to show you a little bit more about this tomorrow. Are there any questions on that? Okay, so what do you use for my class? MLA. So from now on, every paper that I ask you, which I think you'll only probably have one more, needs to be an MLA format, okay? But, any questions? So you do need to go complete the MLA APA Genius Assessment. I think it's only like 15 questions. It should be really quick. Because a lot of it is just identifying which is which, okay? So, I mean, in reality, I'd probably get it done as soon as I can, so that I don't have to worry about it, because Friday is a remote learning day. All right?
It's not Thursday.
Huh?
It's not Thursday. Yeah.
Okay, so, all right, any questions? All right,